I've been doing this a really long time, going on about 50 years that I've been doing this. And you meet a lot of people and hear a lot of things, a lot of which you view as credible over the years. There is nobody that's got lily white shoes in the past of what's gone on here. And I think coaches would be smart not to let their emotions get them and not to say anything, because you may regret what you had to say.
Well, everybody, welcome into the Phillip Jordan Podcast 2.0. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan from Lyn Scarbrough College Football at 96.9 The Legend in Dothan, Alabama, where I'm the in-studio host and producer, Dothan Wolves Football. I got a fun show planned for you guys today. I'm going to be joined by Lyn Scarbrough from Lindy Sports. We are going to be talking about their preseason magazines. They have put out the College Football National Edition that was out last week. They do have the SEC and the Big Ten editions coming up as well. We'll talk to Lyn about the magazine. He'll tell you where you can find it, so no worries. We'll have that covered in our conversation. And also we'll talk about NIL, Transfer Portal, and how that had an impact on putting the magazine together, and get Lyn's thought on that. We go about the first 10 minutes of our conversation on that topic and a little of Saban versus Jimbo Fisher as well. And then we'll jump into who Lindy's thinks is going to be the best team in college football. Lyn gives his thoughts on Alabama. We'll also talk some surprising teams, and we'll talk Clemson, Texas A&M, a lot of good college football discussion here on the Phillip Jordan Podcast. Of course, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch the show over on YouTube, over at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. I'll also let you guys know my conversation with Lyn was a phone interview on my end and, of course, on his as well. So I'll just give you guys a little notice ahead of time when we get to the conversation. And, of course, this is the Phillip Jordan Podcast 2.0. Last year, when I was with Blue Hour Hustle, started the Phillip Jordan Podcast, went back talking SEC. So kind of restarting the podcast, the Phillip Jordan Podcast. That's why you see the 2.0 there. Just real quickly, let you guys know what to expect from this show. 3 days a week, every Monday, I'll be joined by my colleague over at Last Word, Brandon Eisman. We'll call that Mondays with BE. We'll just talk the latest news, and when we get into the season, we'll obviously look back at the weekend. This podcast will be very college football heavy, but it will not be limited to college football. If I feel need or want to talk to somebody that's, non-college football related on occasion, that will happen here on the show. We'll talk. There will be NFL conversation on here, but also from time to time, especially after the college football season, when that kind of quiets down after signing day, we'll also talk college basketball on here as well. So predominantly college football, but other sports topics we'll jump in on those every now and then. But Brandon will be on Monday, and then on Wednesdays and Fridays, I will have a special guest or maybe a solo, maybe a mailbag. But that's what you can get used to here on the show, which, of course, this is dropping on Thursday. Next week is when we'll be coming 3 days a week. And lastly, before we jump in on a conversation with Lyn, you can email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Now, let's talk to Lyn Scarbrough from Lindy Sports.
All right, everybody, joining me on the show today is Lyn Scarbrough. You can check them out over at Lindy Sports, columnist. And they just got the magazine. The national magazine came out last week. I was so excited. I always know, Lyn, that is the time. College football season is not far away. When the preview magazines come out, I always enjoy picking y'all guys a magazine, not just the national, but also get the SEC one too as well. But I do appreciate you taking time out. I know it's a busy time for you guys over at Lindy's. I appreciate you taking time to come on the show today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, glad to do it. Yeah, with our national, we switched the sequence a little bit. We usually do the Southeastern one first. We did not do it first this time. And we pushed back the publications by a week to allow for the name, image, likeness situations going on, the transfer portals. They set up a deal so you had to know by May the 1st if you were going to transfer. Well, we normally have our first edition already on the press by then. And so we pushed it back so that we'd be able to at least not do the first college edition, which we did as the national edition this year, until we knew for sure where people were going to be transferring to, or if they're going to be transferring. But as you and I had talked off the air, even that May 1st deadline, while it did help us and people like us that do what we do, you've got players that just this week committed or transfer, and they just now committed to another Power 5 team. So the stuff that you do, radio shows, websites, publications like ours, unfortunately, you're not able to hang your hat on something being accurate like you used to, because the way that name, image, likeness, and transfer portal has impacted college football and just amateur athletics in general.
Yeah, I know, because I use it a lot of times this year in any podcast to do, the different shows I've done. I'll do some previews of teams, and sometimes, usually this time of year, I can let that one sit for a couple of days before I release it. Now there's that pressure. Okay, you better hurry up and get it out, because somebody on that team may transfer, or they may get a big name player come in. So it's pretty much like free agency in college athletics.
Well, it is. It is free agency, and I don't know if you want to jump into this conversation now, but the this name, image, likeness thing has basically done that, and you are buying players now, and you can call it whatever you want to. But if you've got three schools that are competing, and one of them says I can give you $100,000 per game to come play, and another one says I can give you $5,000 to come play, and another one says I can give you $500, where do you think the guy's going to go? And you can call it whatever you want to, but it's buying players. And it's changed, to me, the definition of amateur sports. It is making sure that the haves get more and the have-nots get less. There's no way, we're primarily Southern. We are nationwide in our publications and travel nationwide and cover the whole country. But let's say we're here in the South. Are you going to contend that Mississippi State in Starkville is going to have as much resources and money as Texas A&M out in oil country Texas? Are you going to say that in the Big 12, which I know Texas is going to be leaving, but it's Texas, Oklahoma, are they going to have more financial assets where they are than, say, Iowa State in the Big 12? I don't think there's any question about it. And that doesn't mean that the monetary portion is going to be the only reason that players go to school, to a particular school. But all things being equal, that's going to be the determining factor. And coaches can, nan back and forth, whatever you want to do, but it doesn't alter the facts. That, back in the old days, I'll tell you something that happened to me probably 30 years ago. I was a Sunday school teacher at a church, and a young man was in my Sunday school class. And his dad, his family were friends of ours. We'd travel with them. And this young man was a college prospect. And I'm an Auburn graduate. I was going down to Auburn one day. And his dad called and said, can my son ride down there with you? Said he just wanted to look around the campus. I said, sure, let him hop in the car. I mean, this guy's in my Sunday school class, and he's ridden with us on family vacations. Well, I just happened to mention to the sports information office at Auburn that this young man was going to be riding with me. He said, oh, wait a minute, isn't he a football prospect? I said, yeah, he's good football. He said, no, you can't let him ride with you. I said, what? He's family. It doesn't matter. You can't let. Is he going to buy your gas? Well, of course not. I'm coming anyway. Is he going to buy your food? Well, of course not. Well, no, you can't. That's giving an illegal inducement to this young man to let him ride in your car, even though he's in your Sunday school class and your family friend. Compare that to University of Miami. That's got to do where they're paying every player. Brigham Young, I think's got one where they're paying every player. I heard, I don't know it, but we're hearing things in the media that Texas offered a gigantic amount of money to Manning, and then money to other players coming along with him that would be playing. So now you can tell somebody, yeah, come on down, we'll give you, $50,000, $100,000. They told me you can't let one of your family friends ride in the car with you. I mean, so it was a terrible thing to do to let that young man ride in my car. However, it's now evolved where, sure, we're going to pay you $100,000 to come play with us. Come on. And I just, I don't really have a problem with players being compensated for their efforts. And some folks say, well, yeah, but my son and daughter went to school and they didn't get their tuition paid for, didn't get their books paid for. didn't, get all this stuff. And that's true up to a point. But they also were allowed to go get a part-time job, and they didn't have to practice all this time to take away from the studies. So I do see a difference. But I was not for the name, image, likeness concept myself by putting something out and not putting restrictions on it. There had to be a time limit. There had to be a monetary limit. There had to be a limit on the number of players. They did it with no limits at all. About the same as the transfer portal, where it was just, okay, we think in concept it's a pretty good concept, so we're going to throw it out there and y'all do it. Then when it starts being controversial and it starts having people seeing it different ways and it causing controversy, then it's, we might need to rein that back in. Well, it's like my grandmother used to say, it's hard to get the horse back in the barn after the door's been open.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the door's been open to the NIL and the transfer portal barn, and they can try to reel it back in, but they should have thought about these ramifications before they did it, because they've opened the Pandora's box, and a whole lot of what's going on about this is not good, and it could even get worse and have more ramifications.
Yeah, and the thing that has sticked out to me about it is the simple fact too is it's not like, okay, we get transfer portal and then maybe like 5 years later NIL came. Both of these hit at the same time.
That's right.
And I just it's made coaches' jobs harder because you got to re-recruit your same players every single year. I mean, I don't think it's been like official, but you see stuff that Auburn had to re-recruit Tank Bigsby from going to Georgia 2 years in a row.
That's right.
And so it's now it's got to be tough. I know it's tough on coaches, and it's the fact that both these things hit at the exact same time, pretty much. And you're right, you can't put the genie back in the bottle or the toothpaste back into the the bottle or whatever. But I think something's got to be done. It's got to be legislated better. There's got to be some rules in place. But it really is. You've heard Nick Saban say it. It's the wild, wild west right now.
No, it is. And the thing is, it's I don't know why it's catching people by surprise. I mean, it didn't take a Harvard lawyer or a rocket scientist to look at the concept of what they're doing. You can leave and go wherever you want to, and they can pay you whatever they want to pay you. Why does somebody think that's an idea that's not going to cause problems? And, and it's not just football. I mean, it's basketball, gigantic impact on basketball. Last year, you had a lot of the nationally ranked teams that had transfer players, and you're going to have a lot of the nationally ranked teams that are bringing in transfer portal players this coming season. And it's going to continue. And with basketball, you could make a case that makes an even greater impact. You bring in 2 or 3 transfer portal guys in football, and you brought in about 15% of your team, of your starters. You bring in 2 or 3 in basketball, and you got 60% of your starters are got their training at some other school. And it makes a gigantic impact, and I just don't think they really thought it through. And it makes it tough on people in your business and people in the, we've got a radio network, and it's tough. And of course, and then we're the country's largest printer in the magazines that we do in our category, and we've got a website as well. And we produce our publications in April, May, and June. And if there's things that are happening in June, July, and August that impact the season, which there are, then we could feel pretty comfortable that everything we were doing was going to be accurate. And how about this? It's still accurate. It's just not up to date because they've now set up all these things that are incentives for players and programs not to be stable. And there's no way you can anticipate what's going to happen.
Yeah, and of course, and a lot of this, which you can kind of, look at it, pot calling the kettle black a little bit, the Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher situation, which I still say Jimbo Fisher had like somebody just accused him of cheating. Nick Saban never did that, but he kind of made a point that he felt like he was being accused of cheating. Nick Saban never did that. I think Nick Saban made the mistake by just mentioning Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, but that whole deal, and of course we'll find out what happens on October 8th.
Here's the thing. To me, they're both right and both wrong because they're saying that they don't really like the name, image, likeness thing and what it's caused. I agree with them. I don't like it either. So I think in that vein they're right. I think on the other hand, though, those are 2 coaches in 2 schools that don't need to be, they don't need to be throwing rocks. And people in the business of what we do, there's a lot of things that we find out and that we're told, and if you're not there in person, you can't go to court and testify. But I've been doing this a really long time, going on about 50 years that I've been doing this, and you meet a lot of people and hear a lot of things, a lot of which you view as credible over the years. There is nobody that's got lily white shoes in the past of what's gone on here, and I think coaches would be smart not to let their emotions get them and not to say anything, because you may regret what you had to say, and you may look hypocritical. And I think it would have been good for both of those schools not to have anything to say. With that being said, they're not the only ones I could say that about, and I do agree with both of them. I don't like what it's become either.
Yeah, it's obvious. We both of them tell that's the truth. But into the magazine. That was about 10 minutes on all that. But you guys always put out y'all's rankings, and always intriguing. It seems like the consensus with everybody out there: Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia are your 1, 2, 3 teams. Just for you guys, when y'all putting those 3 teams up as the top 3.
That's right.
Just so. What makes Alabama going this year, you think, so much better than the rest of them?
Well, teams. I've always felt like teams that win championships and play for them. I don't like the idea of taking the team that was right up there at the top and you drop them down to number 18. I mean, they need to. A team deserves to defend its position unless there's some glaring reason why it shouldn't. And Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia don't have glaring reasons why they shouldn't. All those teams lost a lot of people. Georgia had more people taken in the drafts than ever been taken by anybody. But they also have a good recruiting class. They've also got good people in reserve. Ohio State looks very, very strong. Anybody that wants to evaluate, a team that looks like they could absolutely be in it, look at Ohio State. They are a very, very strong, deep, well-rounded team. Alabama, much the same way. The Alabama lost a lot of receivers. They lost people on the defensive side, and so they've got some holes to fill. But they've got good running backs. They got a good quarterback. Their offensive line wasn't the best it's ever been last year, but it was okay. But they lost 3 really good receivers. And that's going to be an area, they can have a great guy throwing the ball to them, but if you don't have receivers that'll get open or that'll catch the ball consistently, that's a potential problem. But, you take Alabama and the way the schedule falls for them, you've got to like them. You got to really like their chances. And since there wasn't really another team that just overwhelmingly would have taken their role, we put them up there. We got Texas A&M, but they're really high. With the money that Jimbo Fisher is being paid and the fact that he's in the top, 5 in recruiting after 2 or 3 years. One, I think, was first last year. I've been first this year. He was first this year. He was first in our ranking this year. Eventually, he did beat Alabama and Auburn last year. And that was the first time he had done both. So he finally got a season when he beat Alabama and Auburn. So that's an achievement for him. But then he slips up and loses 4 ball games. And Texas A&M fans are going to be, and it's going to get worse when Texas comes in the conference in a couple of years, because then you're going to have that rivalry back in there, being probably in the same division of the same conference. And A&M, A&M has a schedule, right? Their schedule's good this year. I like them. We may have them a little bit too high, but I do like them. We got Michigan high, and again, the way they have stumbled some. We drank the Kool-Aid and put Notre Dame up there high. We've done that a number of times, and it's come back and bit us. I like what Arkansas is doing. I thought that Coach Pittman was a good match when he came there. I never thought Brett Bielema was a good match there. And in fact, I think the last couple of coaches they've had have not been good matches. I thought Pittman was when he came there. Coach Pittman, I got the sense that he really wanted to come to Arkansas, and there's a big difference when you're somewhere where you want to be, and so that's I think that's a real factor there. I like Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin's going to have an exciting team. Their defense has got to be, we say this every year about a Lane Kiffin team, but their defense has got to be good. And so we'll see how good they really are. I think probably if I want to get a surprise team in the East, I'd take Kentucky. I think Coach Stoops has done a really good job with them. I like Kentucky. I think that they're a team that that could have some surprises. I like their schedule. They do play at Georgia, but that's in their division. They play LSU, Mississippi out of division, but they get LSU at home. I'm still not sold that Florida's going to be that good. They play New Mexico State, Chattanooga, Louisiana Monroe. Let me think. No, I'm trying to think. They play Northern Illinois, don't they? And Youngstown State. Because I know a Youngstown person says he's looking for coming down there. Miami, Ohio. They play MAC teams. They play 2 MAC teams. The point I'm being is that they don't have a real hard schedule, and they don't play Alabama. They don't play Auburn. They don't play Texas A&M. So I like Kentucky's schedule, and I think Coach Rodriguez is a really good running back. So I like Kentucky. I tell you, a team on the national picture I like is Purdue, and I don't even know where we've got Purdue ranked. I think we've got them like in the top 30. But Purdue's got an outstanding quarterback, a guy named Aiden O'Connell, and he's a great story. He came on as a walk-on. He's like a 4th-team player, and he was going to leave the team. He stayed in there. And due to some injuries, he ended up getting to play, and he did really well. And so he got to continue. And Purdue's schedule this year is one that lends itself toward having a good season. And I don't remember exactly who they played, but I remember I looked at when they announced the schedule, and I really liked who they were playing. I'm trying to remember. They opened with Penn State. I remember that. But they don't. Yeah. I think they don't play Ohio State. And they don't play Michigan. And they got their non-conference games are winnable games. I think they'll win all 3 of the non-conference games. They don't play Michigan, don't play Ohio State. So if they were to knock off Penn State first ball game, they have to travel to Penn State. But if they were to knock off Penn State first ball game, I like Purdue as being a possible dark horse in the Big Ten. Our Big Ten magazine's at the printer right now. But I edited it last week, and I noticed Purdue being a team that I thought could be a scary team. Utah is a team. And in fact, nobody's going to put them anywhere, but don't be surprised if they end up being a top 10 team.
Yeah, I know you guys had Clemson there at 4. I know with them, yep. It was the quarterback, DJ, did not live up to expectation last year. But they should be a good defense. In the ACC, you would think, there's no hiccups. They don't really have a tough out-of-conference schedule. Outside of Notre Dame, I know, we'll see how they are under Freeman head coach, but they're an intriguing team, I think, too, going in this year. Obviously, they want to be a playoff team. That's what they expect now at Clemson.
Well, yeah, and they've, Notre Dame, from the Notre Dame standpoint, they've done so poorly. When they've made the playoffs, it's almost been an embarrassment that they made it. It almost would have done them better not to have made it, so that nobody could be ripping on them. But no, the ACC again, is not a real strong conference. Miami is a pretty good team, but they're kind of middle of the road. North Carolina State is. I'm trying to think who else. Wake Forest, were they a fluke last year or not? Having the kind of season that they had. So Clemson, once again, Clemson's got an easy schedule. They got South Carolina, who's going to be better, but I don't see South Carolina beating Clemson. Clemson's one that we've got ranked high. That I like their players. I remember when we were looking at them on the rankings, I kind of thought to myself, they're going to win primarily because of their schedule, not because of them being a great team. But that was just my inclination when I read through it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be intriguing college football season when we get in. And just in 2 or 3 months, we'll be ready to go. And that's why I say everybody go out and get a copy of the Lindy National Magazine. And Lyn, where can people out there listening? Where can they find them a copy of the Lindy Sports Annual? Okay,
I'm going to say this: where all high quality magazines are sold. I'm not giving plugs for any particular company, but if you go to Books A Million or Barnes and Noble or any of those kind of places, we're there. If you go into your Walmarts and those kind of places that have magazine racks, we're there. We're in a lot of your pharmacies, your Walgreens and your major pharmacies. Some of your supermarket chains. We're in the airports at the magazine racks in the airports. We're in those, and then you can contact Lindy's website, www.lindysports.com. That's 2 S's in the middle, LINDYSSPORTS.com. You can call us. We don't have an unlimited inventory. I mean, we got a number of thousands of magazines that we do have in here because we have that many that call us every year and get them. And then we do have subscribers. Because we're an annual magazine, you don't have as many subscribers as you do if you're a weekly or monthly. But we do have people that want to get all of our publications, football, baseball, and basketball, and they subscribe. And of course, we mail them out, as soon as we start getting copies in the office. But yeah, look on your newsstands. It should be that anyone in our listening audience should be able to have a national college edition, really anywhere in the country, and NFL as well. And then the Southeastern is in the Southeastern states. That'll start in a lot of places this week. And then for the fantasy people, I'm not into fantasy, but we do 2 fantasy magazines. We have Lindy's Fantasy Edition, which is on the way to the presses now, and we've got another one called Roto World that we're in the final touches of getting that one done. And anybody that is into fantasy, I'm told, and of course I edit the content, but I'm told that you can go by our editions and come pretty close to winning your league. It's a very, very strong content. So anybody that's into fantasy, if you can't find them, you need to call our office and let us get you one if we're not sold out, because we got a very strong fantasy edition.
All right. Sounds good to me. Like I said, everybody go get you a copy. All these do a great job on all the stuff they put out. And, Lyn, I appreciate the time. And I'm sure we'll talk during the season as it's going on from here and there. But I do appreciate you taking time to come on the show today.
Oh, absolutely. I always enjoy being on with you. Appreciate the opportunity to do it. And let's plan on getting together around the start of the football season and recap what's going on.
All right, absolutely, Lyn. And once again, I appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
Sounds good. That works.
All right. Thanks again to Lyn for coming on today's edition of the Phillip Jordan Podcast. Of course, I look forward to talking to Lyn as we get closer to college football season. And I'm sure we'll talk to Lyn a few times throughout college football season and all the big stuff. It's going to be a fun season. And, like I said, you look at Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, they look head and shoulders the best teams in college football. It's them 3, and I think there's a big drop-off after them. But who knows? The Contenders will rise up. One of those 3 may fall apart. Don't think it's going to be Alabama. But who knows what's going to happen with that. There will be surprises. Injuries will dictate some things. Teams we weren't even talking about going into the season will rise up and upset and be playoff contenders. So when you think you know, you don't know when it comes to anything in sports. And that is why they do play the game. I appreciate you checking out the show. Brand new thing, kind of not, relaunching the Phillip Jordan Podcast. So got some nervous excitement over this episode. And there will be some old interviews from other podcasts that will be showing up in the feed in the coming weeks as well. Stuff I've done with Talking SEC, the Sideline Review, back when I was doing Sports Talk, Phillip Jordan, the Jordan Rich Podcast, stuff I've done over the years. So you can just keep it on the feed if you want to check out some old interviews I've done over the years. They will be there shortly. Got 5 or 6 on there already, but like I said, hope you will check those out as well. Got some, that are good to listen to at any time. Some former coach and player interviews. So go check that out here on the feed. But anyways, remember you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast available on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to watch the show, check it out over on my YouTube channel, Phillip Jordan Sports. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and I'll leave a comment on a YouTube video, and I will read it on a future edition of the show. And remember, you can always email me on sports.phillipjordan@gmail.com. Be back on Monday, starting next week, 3 days a week. But I'll be on Monday, bright and early. Me and Brandon Eisman will talk about all kind of good stuff. Interesting conversation, I'm sure. I can't even tell you what will be the topics right now. We'll go over the weekend and we'll figure it out. We'll have some good stuff on Monday. But anyways, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Be good to each other. And as always, let kindness be your compass.